start with the contract that it seems everybody has been buzzing about since the Super Bowl. The Falcons and two-time Pro Bowl running back Devonta Freeman have agreed to a 5-year contract extension. That makes him the NFL's highest-paid running back, pending Le'Veon Bell's anticipated contract. The Falcons confirmed the 5-year extension. GM Thomas Dimitroff and the Falcons issued this statement, quote, "We are very pleased that we were able to get this extension done. Devonta embodies everything we are looking for in a Falcon, and we are proud that he'll be able to spend his career here in Atlanta." Adam, this was really handled the right way.
Well, Susie, you said it best. This has been in the works for a while, and I think that everybody was confident it was going to get done by the start of training camp. And I think basically the agent recognizes that Atlanta has gone as far as it will go before this deal gets done. And Devonta Freeman may never be in a better position to strike than he is right now when you've got a running back as good as Tevin Coleman right there on the roster and depth chart with him, when you've got a new offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, coming in, and you don't know how that offense is going to run without Kyle Shanahan, and you've got the threat of injuries at the running back position. So Devonta Freeman takes a deal that includes a $15 million signing bonus, that includes a base salary this year of $1.29 million. And he gets that deal done because of the $22 million in guaranteed money. Had to do the deal now, couldn't wait. And again, the Falcons now have him under contract for the next 6 years.
I mentioned highest paid until Bell gets his deal done. So where does that stand with now this in the books?
Well, it's funny because there's still a pretty big gap between how Le'Veon views himself and then what the average salary is here for Devonta Freeman. And that's a gap I just don't necessarily feel is going to be filled. I think, to me, if I'm sitting there in the front office, I mean, $8 million a year, $8.25 million a year for a running back, I mean, that's pretty darn good money. $10 million a year, I mean, you're getting into money now where it just doesn't make sense for teams to go that high. And look, a guy like Devonta Freeman, and that's not to say he doesn't deserve his money, because last year, when you look at the fact that in terms of yards per carry, total yards, rushing TDs, receptions, this guy's top 10 in all those areas. So I understand why the salaries for running backs are escalating. I just don't see them escalating to the point where front offices are willing to start looking at running backs as hybrid wide receiver type running backs like Le'Veon has wanted to be viewed as, and where the money will get to $12 million per year. I just don't see it going there.
If you're going to continue to raise the bar of what you're paying a running back, it better be about stuff that includes not just what he does on the field, but what he means to your locker and what he means to your huddle specifically. I'll never forget that before Devonta Freeman was drafted, there were people that went to that Florida State campus and during that national championship season and said, you talk about Jameis Winston as the leader of that huddle, Devonta Freeman is equal to leader to Jameis Winston, means just as much to Florida State. Thomas Dimitroff's comments reflected that in his statement today, saying he embodies everything we want Atlanta Falcon to be, excuse me. I think that's a big part of why the team was motivated to get this deal done, beyond the fact that he had just one more year left on his rookie contract.
It's also an illustration of how flat and even depressed the running back market is, because if we go back to 2004, LaDainian Tomlinson was paid $8 million a year average. If we go back to 2013, the Falcons gave Steven Jackson $8 million a year on average. The cap has gone up significantly since then, and yet Devonta Freeman, who's coming off back-to-back Pro Bowls, still gets only just over $8 million per year. But that's what the market yields. And when we talk about Le'Veon Bell, who's under the $12.1 franchise tag, he can't do a long-term deal until after the season. And his whole thinking all along has been he wants to break that glass ceiling that exists on running back salaries, that has depressed those salaries in recent years. The running backs need somebody to break through. Devonta Freeman didn't do it. Le'Veon Bell's going to hope to do it.
What's interesting is the fact that you pulled up those stats kind of tells you that although the game has kind of come back around, I shouldn't even say come back around, running backs have always been very, very valuable. But because of the way the game has changed, the run-pass combination running backs are the ones who are going to be held at a premium. But teams aren't willing, although they know just how much more important that they are, teams aren't willing to let the salaries escalate accordingly. It'd be interesting to see. I don't see that happening. I just don't see that gap being filled to where it gets to something where we start talking $12 million a year running backs.
Hey, D'Angelo Williams said a couple of weeks ago that there should not be a roster where a punter or kicker makes more than a starting running back.
That's
true. And we have that. We have that in this league.
That's true.
In the NFL.
I agree.
I believe that's true.
I agree. Put it in the next CBA.
Here's a scary thought, by the way, for the rest of the NFC South, is the Falcons now have their top receiver, their top rusher, their best offensive lineman, their right tackle, their top 2 tacklers from last year, their top 2 cornerbacks. That's just the starting point of guys that are under contract for at least 3 more seasons. And eventually get a new deal done from Matt Ryan. This team is built to last.
You think that's by design or something like that?
Somebody's doing something
I think they
right
know what
there.
they're doing down
The head coach and GM are also under contract for a while, too.
Very
Yep.
nice.